Hello, my name is Maria Miller from mathmammoth.com. In this lesson we're going to study subtracting a negative integer. And that often causes problems for students because it is so counterintuitive, it doesn't seemingly make sense. So I'm going to show you two models and then a third way to think about it, and then we will come to a shortcut. Now, the first model has to do with counters. Let's say we have a negative number here, negative 5, and we're going to subtract a negative number. That's how it looks like. Negative 5 minus negative 2. So, negative 5 here means that I start with 5 negative counters. And then subtract here. This means take away, and I take away 2 negative counters. So, those go away, and I'm left with 3 negative counters. Negative 3. Okay? That was easy, I hope. Now here is a totally different situation. We have 3 positive counters to start with. We're supposed to take away 2 negative counters. But you can take away 2 negative counters when there aren't any, right? But there's a little trick I can use. And that is that I will first add 0 to it. I will add a pair of a positive and negative. Okay? See, those together make a 0, right? So I added a 0 to it. That didn't change the fact that I still have 3 positives. Now I'll add another pair of a positive and negative. Like that. I've added 2 zeros to the situation, but it doesn't change the value of 3. However, now I can indeed take away 2 negatives. And I'm left with 5 positives. Notice how this is basically, it became 3 plus 2 equals 5. Okay, here is a similar situation to this. Because I have 2 negatives, I'm supposed to take away 4 negatives, but I can't, I don't have enough. So I'll do the same. I will add 2 zeros here. That should be enough, right? Because now I can take away 4 negatives. This and this and this and this. And then I'm left with 2 positives. Here, I have 3 negatives to start with, and I take away 3 negatives. So I have enough. I'll just take them away, and I'm left with a 0. Okay? Notice, this also is as if I had done the calculation minus 3 plus 3. Okay? And later, you see the shortcut that is there, that these 2 minuses here, this minus minus here, it is as if they turn into a plus. It is as if this becomes addition. Now let's look at subtracting a negative number on a number line, as number line jumps. And you remember how the number line jumps worked with just a simple addition or a subtraction. Now we have a subtraction of a negative number. This is still our starting point. I will start here at negative 3. This is where I start. This, when you're subtracting, it meant you go left. You go towards smaller numbers, okay? But then there's this other minus here. And think of it as if turning you 180 degrees so that even though you are starting to go this direction, you turn and you go this direction instead. 5 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so you end up here at 2. Kind of interesting. Let's try it again here. Let's say we start at 1. Here's 1. And it says 1 minus, and that normally means that you would go that way. But this other minus makes you turn 180 degrees. Turn about totally, so that you face that direction now and go 4 steps that way. Okay, and so you end at 5. Again, it is like 1 plus 4. Or here it was like minus 3 plus 5. Now let's try the same if we have some more movements to make. 2 operations here, 2 operations here, so that means 2 different movements. But again, we would start at 2, okay? The starting point is 2 here. 1, 2. And then minus 5 means we subtract, we go this way 5 steps. Okay, we go here. And then from there, again, subtract here means we would go this way, and this minus turns us just the opposite way, going that way, 1 step. Okay, and where did we end up? At negative 2. Or here, start at negative 4. Then first add 3, so you move this direction 3 steps. There. And then subtract, you would go that way. This other minus makes you go this way instead, 4 steps. Over there. So we land at 3. And, like we have seen thus far, there's a shortcut, and it seems to work in each case where these two minuses turn into a plus. Now there's one more way that we can think about this situation, subtracting a negative integer, and that has to do with the idea of difference. Let me first explain that to you using just normal positive numbers. If you have 12 minus 7, that's a subtraction problem, but you remember the answer is called the difference of 12 and 7. And the difference, you can think of it as the distance on a number line between 12 and 7. The answer is 5. Okay, 12 and 7 differ from each other by 5 units. Now, if you wrote the numbers just the other way around, 7 minus 12, we know the answer is negative 5. So this here is the difference between 12 and 7, but you take it negative. Okay, and the difference between these two is that here we have the bigger number first, and we subtract the smaller number from it. And here I put the smaller number first, subtracting the bigger number from it. So the answer is still something 5, but it's negative 5. Either way, we can look at the distance between 12 and 7. But we need to carefully think whether we take it as positive 5 or negative 5. And so here, I can look at the distance between these two numbers, this number and this number, negative 2 and negative 8. And since there's a subtraction here, I can think of the difference. I can think of the distance between these two numbers. This time, this is the bigger number, okay? Remember, negative 2 is more than negative 8. So this is the bigger number, take away the smaller number. So this is just the distance between those two numbers, which is 6 units, okay? So the answer is 6. I can write it here maybe. Now here, when they are just the other way around, we have the smaller number first and the bigger number last, then the answer still has the absolute value of 6. The answer is still something 6. I can still look at the distance. I can still look at the distance between these two, 6 units, but I need to take it negative. Okay. Would our shortcut work here too? Negative 2 plus 8, yes, it's going to be 6. And negative 8 plus 2, yes, it's going to be negative 6. After you have studied these ideas, then it is time to start using the shortcut, which makes everything much quicker. Shortcut is that every time you have these two negatives, you turn it into a plus. So 9 minus negative 2, you can, for example, make here a big plus, and then the answer is 11. Negative 9 minus negative 2. Okay, here becomes a plus. So negative 9 plus 2. It's like moving on the number line. Negative 9, 2 steps towards the positives. So you end up at negative 7. And then negative 9 minus 2. That one does not have the double minus. So negative 9 and move 2 steps towards the negatives at negative 11. Over here, let's practice just a little bit more. And you can pause the video now and try to solve these on your own, and then check and see if you get the same answers as I will. Okay, negative 10 plus 2. You at negative 10, you move 2 steps towards the 0, towards the positives, towards 0. So you'll end up at negative 8. Now here, I have the double negative. I'll turn it to a positive. So negative 10 plus 2. Oh, well, it's the same as I just did, negative 8. And then negative 10 minus 2. Now we go towards more negatives, negative 12. And lastly, we will try 2 problems where there's 2 operations to do. Try this on your own too. Pause the video. Okay, here I have one problem here. I can turn this into a plus here. The double negative is a plus. 5 plus 2 is 7. 7 minus 8 will be negative 1. And then here, minus 6 plus negative 3 minus negative 3. There's the double negative again. Turn that into a plus. And so we have negative 6 plus negative 3. Those two together make negative 9. Negatives plus more negatives. And to negative 9 we add 3, and then that makes negative 6. It is basically adding a negative 3 and adding a 3. These basically like cancelled each other. These two actually are like adding a 0, so that's why the negative 6 didn't change anyway. Okay, we're all done, and I hope this was helpful.